Nora Dershlit was born in 1993, a date we can derive because her 16th birthday takes place in 2009, during the season where Carly is in 9th grade. Nora is the daughter of a commercial jingle composer who created the theme for Fat Cakes and Food Pockets. It looks like one of her parents may have been named Dershberg at some point, perhaps a remnant of her Norwegian heritage, and maybe the two parents combined last names to become the Derschlits, which sounds even worse. During her 15th birthday in 2008, nobody shows up, leaving her filled with a darkness that would come jettisoning out on an unsuspecting victim. She hints to other depressing birthdays that were so upsetting that she's not even able to elaborate. In 2009, Nora attends Ponderosa High School in Olympia, Washington, and is part of a youth group, but still doesn't seem to have any friends outside of her pet chicken, Maurice. Youth group is typically a term associated with a religious organization, and while many of them are probably harmless, she would later demonstrate some wacko religious beliefs.
I think of myself more as disturbed.
With no real relationships to speak of, she decides to form a parasocial one with her favorite web stars, Carly Shay, Samantha Puckett, and Fredward Fredicini Benson, also known as Freddie. She would invite them to her 16th birthday party after learning they would be attending Webicon in her area. But even Carly, Sam, and Freddie, a group of teenagers surrounded almost exclusively by weird, awkward losers, would not be prepared for the absolute psycho that Nora Dershlit would unleash upon them. To learn how the most wretched horrors of iCarly compare to being a real professional content creator, stick around to the end of this video. This video is sponsored by Audible.
Wait, we forgot Gibby.
Oh yeah. Gibby!
Welcome to Horror History. iCarly is a 2007 sitcom that aired on Nickelodeon that ran for 6 seasons before being revived in 2021. Oh boy, we're really doing this. Just off the bat here, I actually have been wanting an excuse to watch iCarly. I had seen a little bit of it when I was a kid, but I was more into Drake and Josh. I think almost everything I saw of iCarly was from season 1, because when I watched it for this video, I didn't know that Gibby had become a main character. I honestly didn't remember who he was.
Forgot Gibby.
But the reason I wanted to watch it is because most of my family is involved in medical fields, and they watch these medical shows and make fun of them. And it made me want to see how my industry is portrayed on television. And as far as I know, this is the only such show. Unless you count something like Haters Back Off, which stars a real incel. That's short for internet celebrity if you aren't in the know. But that's kind of cheating, putting a real web star in it. That would be like if the medical shows starred actual doctors. iCarly is probably one of the most violent shows that I've ever covered on my channel. That sounds like a joke, but it's probably true. Hell, this one buttersock scene alone has a higher body count than most horror movies.
I hope your 30 friends can see in the dark.
Shut off the lights! I can't see nothing!
Where is she? Get him, Sam!
Take him out, Sam! Do it! Come on!
Sorry, Gib!
But while the buttersock is feared by many, today I wanted to look into the fears of our main characters, the online content creators that I can identify so closely with. What keeps them up at night, other than editing and planning out content, that is? That is where Nora Dershlit comes into play. But before we can fully understand Nora, we've got to understand her obsession, the cultural phenomenon web series iCarly. So let's take it back to the upload that started it all. iCarly, the web series, was started in 2007 when a 13-year-old Carly Shay and her best friend, Sam Puckett, are forced to record a talent show audition at their school and end up commentating over all the entries, realizing they make pretty entertaining hosts. Basically what they're doing here is commentating on cringe, which is super ahead of its time for 07. This genre really took off on YouTube in 2015. When their cameraman, Freddie Benson, accidentally uploads the commentary instead of the actual auditions, they pop off for a respectable 27,000 views overnight.
I edited you guys out before I uploaded the auditions.
No, you did the opposite of that.
This may seem like an unfathomably stupid thing to do, but in 2019, this girl named Brooke, who showed her dog in her videos, was actually abusive towards the dog and got caught one day when she accidentally uploaded the abuse footage to her channel, thus making her the stupidest and worst YouTuber of all time. iCarly was launched into fame almost immediately after deciding to make their show a weekly livestream. But with fame comes increased pressure, increased scrutiny, decreased privacy, and a subset of crazy fans, some of which are bound to have a few screws loose. There's one aspect to this whole story that I will not be covering in this video, and that would be the real-life horrors behind the production of iCarly and many other 2000s teen sitcoms. One of these stories is that of Jeanette McCurdy, the then 15-year-old co-star thrust into fame by her mother, forced to endure the stresses and trauma behind stardom before she was ever equipped to decide if she wanted to live that life. If you want to hear more about that, I recommend picking up her memoir on Audible. She even does the narration. It's nice to hear her voice again after 6 years out of the limelight. Of course, if the heavy topics are not your thing, Audible still got you covered with the fictional worlds of mystery, thriller, and horror. They've become the destination for things that go bump in the night with the most visceral and gripping experiences in the world of audio entertainment, including Lone Wolf, Good Half Gone, and The Coldest Case. Members also get full access to a growing selection of included audiobooks, Audible originals, and podcasts. You can download included titles all you want, and as an Audible member, you get to choose one title a month to keep. Right now, if you use my link, you can try out Audible for free. Just visit the link in the description, audible.com/CZsWorld, or text CZsWorld to 500 500. Again, that's audible.com/CZsWorld. What? There's no wrong time to eat an egg roll? From 2007 to 2009, Nora Dershlit would have discovered and become a fan of the internet comedy show iCarly. In fact, she becomes seemingly obsessed with the iCarly crew, and this may explain some of Nora's abnormal behavior. In psychology, there's a term known as celebrity worship disorder or celebrity worship syndrome. Keep in mind, this is an informal diagnosis. It's not officially recognized by DSM-5, the standard manual for mental disorders. I can't believe I'm talking about DSM-5 in a video about iCarly. But researchers have discovered certain patterns that they've deemed to be related to celebrity worship. According to Newport Academy, symptoms include depression and anxiety, lower levels of critical thinking, impaired social skills, problematic internet use, desire for fame, difficulties with romantic relationships, poor interpersonal boundaries, and higher risk of addictive and criminal behaviors. Don't worry, we will cover all of these and how they pertain to Nora, but for now, let's look at impaired social skills. Nora's only friend is a chicken, and she consistently demonstrates not knowing how to handle social situations.
Hey, Nora, you gotta come see this.
Oh my gosh. No one's ever asked me to come see anything before.
So the question is celebrity worship syndrome the reason for her poor social skills? Or did she turn to watching iCarly obsessively because she has no friends? It seems like her issues go back further than 2007 when iCarly first went live. And it's possible she could have been shunned because of the mismatched eye colors. However, I'm guessing she probably had a different celebrity obsession before that. And I say this because she matches so many of the other symptoms of celebrity worship syndrome. There's also a precedent for this within iCarly. At one point, they're stalked by another, less violent but also kind of creepy obsessive fan named Mandy. But when Mandy discovers a rock band named Backflash, she completely turns her obsession to them. Shortly before Nora's 16th birthday, she discovers that the iCarly gang is planning on going to Webicon, which is the iCarly universe version of VidCon. VidCon always takes place in the summer, so I'll assume that Nora's birthday is around then. VidCon is something I have a lot of experience with. I've gone every time that they've put it on since 2016. As an internet creator, VidCon is one of the highlights of the entire year because it basically gets better every year. It's not that the convention itself has gotten better every year. Look no further than this video I shot at the last VidCon of a rapper performing for literally one person and a camera op. No, the reason it gets better every year is that every year, I'm a bigger creator than the previous year. I've gone from a guppy in 2016, where I attended one hotel room party where people played beer pong on an overturned dresser, to hosting my own VidCon party in 2022, complete with walk-around scare actors and my own emo nights. And because this thing is funded by brands that want to leave a good impression on creators and build business relationships, that means being treated like a god for that entire week. And the royal treatment gets better every year. And also, as you start to build more connections, you get invited to more stuff, and probably the best thing about it is getting to chill with friends from all over the country and meet new ones. And there are more and more familiar faces around every time I go back. Anyway, before Webicon, iCarly receives the following email.
Hello, iCarly. I mean, I doubt you really watch this because you guys probably get a gajillion emails a day.
That part is true.
This Friday is my 16th birthday, and I heard that iCarly's gonna be at Webicon this weekend, which is only 15 minutes from my house. I was wondering if you guys would come to my sweet 16 birthday party. Last year when I turned 15, I had a party, but nobody showed up.
Yeah, I have gotten depressing emails like this. Like, today was my wedding anniversary, but my husband forgot, so I just binged your videos. Thanks for being there for me, CZ. And oh man, I never know how to respond to these types of emails. On one hand, I feel really bad, but if we take an email like this at face value, it is supposed to be positive, kind of. So there's a small part of me that is proud to have helped someone if it helped them get through something. And there's a large part of me that usually thinks that the emails are fake, that someone's just trying to bait a pity response. And if they are real, then I'm worried about the sender becoming emotionally dependent on me, which I am not equipped to deal with. So it's kind of a minefield. Sam is not interested in attending this party until she hears that there's going to be a chocolate fountain. Nora's parents take a vacation to Wyoming, leaving her home alone during her birthday. At first glance, perhaps they were privy to the fact that her birthday is going to be really depressing and possibly trigger some psychotic episode, so they got out of town in order to save themselves. Or maybe they just really don't care about her. Maybe their neglect is the reason that Nora is so messed up. We'll revisit this later. But at this point, I would guess it's more likely that they were trying to escape Nora, because they give her an explanation that they chose to go to Wyoming because there was a deal to save $10 on airfare.
They had to snatch that opportunity.
Nora decorates with balloons and streamers and invites all the kids in her class, but nobody believes her about iCarly actually showing up. She also hires Cramps the Clown, who is an 87-year-old man. I just can't get away from clowns, can I? Nora freaks out when Carly, Freddie, and Sam arrive at her house.
I can't believe you guys really came. I'm Nora.
Hi, I'm Carly, and this is...
I know who you guys are.
I always do that when I meet fans, and it's always like that, with them saying, yeah, we know who you are. And in my defense, there's just something natural about introducing yourself to someone that you've never met before. It's just hard to shake that. The exception is actually, ironically, VidCon, specifically with other creators. Sometimes I meet people and I know who they are and they know who I am, and there's just no introduction necessary. Nora puts on a cassette tape and tries to slow dance with Freddie, which he is unable to get away from because they're the only ones there, and he doesn't want to break his fan's heart on her birthday. Carly is also pressured into dancing with Cramps the Clown, which is very weird. Not only because it's a parasocial interaction, but because Cramps is 87 years old and Carly is 15. Cramps the Clown has an aneurysm while dancing with Sam and fucking dies. See, I told you this show has a higher body count than most horror movies. This causes Nora to have a mental breakdown and start sobbing into the fireplace. And this is where her disturbed nature would make itself known. Nora's tears douse the logs in her fireplace as her wails echo through the chimney. Depression and anxiety, if you'll recall, was our first symptom of celebrity worship syndrome. But this wasn't long before we'd see potential evidence of another psychological disorder. Usually the villains that I talk about on the show are pretty messed up in the head, often representing a cocktail, or should I say groovy smoothie, of different psychological issues blended into one. For Nora, I'm gonna talk about 3 different conditions that I'm convinced she has, but I'll try to keep things as simple as possible. Seeing Nora's distress, Carly feels terrible for her and decides to do a live iCarly broadcast from her house, hoping to encourage Nora's classmates to actually show up. This causes her to completely change moods so quickly that she gets nauseous and runs to throw up in the fireplace, which is apparently her de facto spot for bodily waste. The mood swings are a possible sign of what's known as rapid cycling, and I'm not talking about something that you would see in the middle of a triathlon. That was pretty bad. That's like a joke you would hear on iCarly. Rapid cycling is the first of many potential signs of Nora having bipolar disorder, a mental health condition where a person experiences extreme mood swings. During the live stream, she almost seems vindictive towards her fellow classmates.
Hello, peers. I told you guys iCarly might come.
As Sam and Carly perform a classic skit, guests start showing up in droves for the party. The party is a success, but Nora demonstrates a lack of social intuition, stroking a boy's hair and kissing a girl on the lips unprompted as thanks for showing up. Going back to our celebrity worship symptoms, this demonstrates both difficulties with romance and poor interpersonal boundaries. She clearly has never been in a social situation and doesn't know how normal interactions are supposed to go. But I think everyone is so impressed with the fact that she got iCarly at her party that they're willing to overlook some of the red flags. The girl she kissed even invites her to go to the spa the following week with a group of girls, and though she still doesn't know how to converse with people, she makes it through the party without completely blowing her newfound reputation. And not a moment too soon. But we see her mood swing back in the other direction when Sam mentions that it's time for the trio to head out. However, they discover that Nora has moved their luggage to the basement for safekeeping, where they're impressed by Mr. Derschlit's home recording studio. At some point, she also pickpockets all of their phones without them noticing, which honestly is pretty impressive. While admiring the recording room, Nora closes the door and locks them in. I'm not sure why this door even has a lock on the outside. All the expensive equipment seems to be outside the booth, but panic sets in when Nora's voice pipes into the room.
Why'd you close the door? Oh, because I can't let you leave.
It doesn't seem like Nora's crime is premeditated though. When she locks them in, it looks more spontaneous, and she goes on to explain that she's keeping them prisoner because she believes that the three of them are angels sent to make her more popular.
I can't let my angels fly away.
And here we can checkbox the final 3 symptoms of celebrity worship syndrome. And I'm not just talking about the fact that she kidnapped a group of celebrities. Obviously, that's an example of criminal behaviors, but if we analyze the reason she locked them up, it's because they brought her popularity, which fits into the desire for fame, often linked with the lack of self-acceptance. And the last one I'm gonna mention here is poor critical thinking skills. She's smart enough to cover her tracks a little bit, using Carly's phone to contact Webicon and cancel their appearance, and using all of their phones to text their families and make it seem like everything is going fine. But she clearly lacks the foresight to figure out anything past that. What happens when her parents come back home? What happens when it's time for Carly and friends to get back from Webicon and they still aren't back? What happens when it's time for the next iCarly broadcast and it doesn't happen and the police are called and the last known sighting of Carly, Sam, and Freddie was at Nora's house, which there is video evidence of? Clearly Nora is missing a few wrinkles up in the old dome. They're held overnight, and the next morning, Nora doesn't even seem to realize that she's the bad guy in the situation. She seems genuinely delusional. It's like she doesn't hear Carly's insinuations that she's insane and only hears what she wants to hear. They ask for food, which she offers in exchange for a kiss from Freddie, which he is vehemently against at first, which, like, yeah, it's wrong to force someone to kiss you, but also, I would do it in order to maybe escape or at least get food. It's not that big a deal. He's forced to participate in kissing her through the glass like some kind of prison romance, and Nora orders them Chinese food, which is presumably dropped through the sliding door in the glass. Carly takes advantage of this by asking for hot mustard and grabbing her arm. It's really not clear what the plan was here, but it sets Nora off into a fit of rage, leading her to go upstairs, and it's better if I play the clip. Roll it.
Big box with less.
We're out!
She's wearing a mask of former US President Richard Nixon and holding an axe. I'm not sure what the deal is with the Nixon mask, other than the fact that Nixon was involved in the Watergate scandal, which involved his administration installing microphones to spy on a rival's headquarters, and Carly, Sam, and Freddie are trapped in a microphone booth where Nora can hear everything that they're saying. But the axe could be a reference to another psychotic kidnapper that I've talked about on this channel. I'm referring to Annie Wilkes from Stephen King's Misery. Like Nora, Annie was a superfan who went too far, in her case kidnapping her favorite author, Paul Sheldon, breaking his legs, and holding him prisoner as she forced him to write a sequel to her favorite book series. In the novel, Annie uses an axe to cut off Paul's foot in one of the most iconic scenes, ensuring that he won't be able to run away. In the movie, it's changed to a mallet. It's part of one of her many violent mood swings. In fact, in the horror history episode I did on Annie, I theorized that she may have a combination of bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and celebrity worship syndrome, which is looking more and more like it may be the case for Nora Dershlit. Both characters kidnap their favorite celebrity artists, but both seem to do so spontaneously after seeing the opportunity, as opposed to meticulously planning out their crimes. Annie wants Paul to change the ending to his Misery book series, and Nora wants Carly to change her history of unpopularity. Even their outfits are kind of similar. When they first meet Nora, she's wearing this kind of old-fashioned plaid dress, which is reminiscent of this pattern that Annie Wilkes wears. And the next morning, she's got this blue topper with flowers all over it. Annie can sometimes be seen in blue floral patterns. Maybe a coincidence, maybe an intentional nod. There are also multiple suggestions about Nora being a religious nutjob, with her claims that Carly, Sam, and Freddie were angels that had been sent to her. And Annie Wilkes seems to be suffering from the same exact delusion.
But this time I thought clearly. I asked God about you, and God said, I delivered him unto you so that you may show him the way.
Seeing Nora wielding a weapon in a horror villain-esque form causes them to retreat back to where it's safe, and Nora would continue to administer her torture. After seeing the mask and the hatchet, the E-celebs are scared back into the vocal booth, and Nora continues to flip-flop between rage and mania, torturing them with her singing until she goes up to get lunch. When she comes back, Carly explains that tomorrow is Gibby's birthday, and they promise to send him a birthday video, which Nora allows, granted that they don't try to pull anything.
I'll be watching your every move.
She doesn't seem to notice them encoding a secret message into their video, even though it's pretty obvious. Lack of cognitive thinking again, I guess.
Sorry we can't be with you on your special day. But at least you got to spend the 4th of July with us.
Yeah, we're always together every 4th of July.
Every 4th.
Word.
For some reason, Gibby brings his little brother on the train to Olympia to confront Nora, rather than bringing in adults or calling the police. So when Gibby shows up, she just claims that she doesn't have them trapped in her basement. This would be another opportune time to call the police, but Gibby instead breaks the door down, leading to a physical confrontation between the two. I should note that in Misery, there were also people who came around to look for Paul Sheldon, one of which was a police officer named Dwayne Kushner, who Annie stabbed in the back with a cross after he discovered where Paul Sheldon was hidden. Nora doesn't have a weapon on hand at the time, so she simply jumps on Gibby's back until the melee takes them to the fireplace where, instead of crying into it, she arms herself with a fire poker. But when he's able to disarm her, Nora's relentless attack continues. Man, they really did a number on Gibby's stunt actor in this series.
There's that meme where I fall and die, that Gibby dies. He hits the floor really hard, it's funny. But yeah, that stunt guy like broke all his ribs or something.
It almost looks like she has some limited martial arts experience right here, allowing her to dominate him with a chokehold. But she's so absorbed in the fight that she doesn't notice Guppy grabbing the key and freeing the trio of prisoners. And once Sam gets out, you know it's game over.
Oh, getting sleepy. Feelings.
Nora goes to jail, but when it's all said and done, Carly ends up feeling regretful, remembering that Nora was just a lonely girl and bought them Chinese food. This is a textbook case of Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological condition where hostages develop affection towards their captors. A similar thing happened with Paul Sheldon.
I don't think I'm completely nuts, but in some way, Annie Wilkes, that whole experience helped me. It's weird, even though I know she's dead. I still think about it once in a while.
The iCarly gang would make it to Webicon the following year.
Of course, we tried to go to Webicon last year.
But we were captured by a maniac who locked us in her basement.
By the way, these fan mobs really did happen at one point, but they don't anymore. Not for the last few years. The leading theory is that there are just so many creators now that everyone has their own subset of people that they follow, so you can have 10 million fans and it still might not be a huge chunk of the actual audience. Last year, there was a moment where we were chilling in the convention hall and the guy from the front billboard came around, like this guy, and there were no fans around him, and then one fan came up and that was it. Compare that to 2017 where there were multiple stampedes. It's probably for the better that things chilled out.
Who has a question for the iCarly crew? I do. Yes. You guys are so awesome.
Really appreciate that. Very kind.
Do you have a question?
No, please.
The cringe panel questions are also pretty accurate to what VidCon is actually like. I don't go to the panels much anymore, but there was this one year in a Frederator VidCon panel, probably 2016, where someone got up to ask a question to the audience, asking if anyone wanted to marry him so he could get a green card. It was so uncomfortable, but it was very much real. Okay, I could do commentary on this whole episode and all my real life examples, but let's keep this moving. In 2011, a 17 or 18-year-old Nora is scheduled for a parole hearing, and the trio is invited to attend and express their opinions on her potential release at the Washington State Women's Penitentiary with the most lazily photoshopped sign that I've ever seen. Nora's speech is a pity party, and that, combined with her crying parents, breaks Carly and causes her to request Nora's release.
Nora Dershlit, trapping the stars of a web show in your basement is a serious crime.
Yo, true. The most serious. But Nora is released and gives a hug to the iCarly crew for taking pity on her, which seems inappropriate and may be a sign that 2 years in the clink still hasn't taught Nora anything about personal boundaries or acceptable social behavior. Her mom cooks her a feast to celebrate her release, but her dad once again takes the first opportunity to get away from her.
I want to go camping. Alone tonight.
It's not clear why he actually does this, but it would appear that he's telling the truth. We'll get back to him later though. This gets Carly, very stupidly, to agree to join them for dinner, and everyone just goes along with it because the show is called iCarly, and whatever she says goes, I guess. Nora reunites with her chicken, and apparently her parents keep framed photos of her from the night she was incarcerated for false imprisonment. Ah yes, precious family memories. During dinner, Spencer arrives to pick them up and asks to use the bathroom, during which you can see the fridge magnets arranged to say, "Must get iCarlys," which had to have been arranged by Nora's mom, because it doesn't appear that Nora went in that room yet. Another interesting addition is the wall-mounted swords on top of the Derschlit family crest. When Carly tries to say goodbye, Nora and her mom drop the news that they won't be going anywhere. This time, they've reinforced the entire house as a prison. If Nora's mom is now in on it, it would seem that she too has some mental issues. We're never expressly told if she was always crazy or if seeing her only daughter get locked up made her thirsty for revenge. But I do know that borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder both have a hereditary component, as most things do. I wouldn't say that Mrs. Derschlit has celebrity worship syndrome, but she likely has borderline. Nora's celebrity worship thing is probably something that arose from the borderline that she inherited from her mom. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. Why am I trying to be logical about an iCarly horror history video? Before Sam bashes the two Derschlit's faces in, Nora turns on the video feed from the basement where Spencer is restrained to this medieval torture wheel. How did Mrs. Derschlit get him into this thing on her own? I don't know. I wouldn't think too hard about that, or the fact that their address changes from 2009 to 2011. In fact, I've noticed that there's just no attempt at continuity in the show, whether it's the location of lockers, or their peak view count, or what floor they live on, or the religion of Sam's family, or whether or not Carly is claustrophobic, or what her dad does for a living.
He's in the Air Force, but was somehow on a submarine, and I'm not exactly sure.
Back to the action, Nora and her mom have a new motivation. The iCarlys tainted the memory of her 16th birthday party, so now they're gonna be forced to recreate it so that the tainted memories can be replaced. This time, Nora takes it out on Spencer whenever one of them steps out of line. There's a special button on the back of the remote that will allegedly kill Spencer with centrifugal force if they try to pull any tricks.
And this time, my party will be perfect. And it will go on forever and ever and ever.
Forget Annie Wilkes for a minute, that sounds like something out of a different Stephen King movie.
Come play with us, Daddy, forever and ever and ever.
Sam is forced to apologize to a chicken, the gang is forced to party with mannequins, they're coerced to sing a royalty-free birthday song, and Freddy is sexually assaulted to the point of asphyxiation.
You guys just stood there eating cake while I was tampered with?
It's really good cake.
It seems that Nora's mood swings have only gotten worse, or maybe this is just what it looks like when she doesn't feel the need to hide her true nature. So it doesn't exactly go over well when she realizes she's been duped by the model of Gibby's head that they'd placed under a blanket to make it look like he was asleep. The next morning, she overhears them talking about what happened to Gibby, who escaped, and concludes that he's probably not coming back to save them, seeing as how it's already been 12 hours. Nora's dad gets back from camping, but he too is in on the insanity.
And ever, and ever, and ever, and ever.
The idea that both of Nora's parents are also psychotic really recontextualizes that first kidnapping. It could be that these two parents raised their daughter to be evil and went to Wyoming over her birthday on purpose to bait Carly, Sam, and Freddy into coming to Nora's party. Or it could be that my initial assessment is correct. They're afraid of Nora, which is why they left in 2009, and now they've decided to comply with her evil revenge plot so as not to get on her hit list whenever she is eventually released from prison. No matter which you choose to believe, there are massive plot holes. It certainly couldn't be that the iCarly writers didn't really think things through, could it? In any event, it seems like all three of them enjoy torturing Spencer, but a noise in the house prompts them to start looking everywhere for Gibby again. Which makes no sense, because Nora already overheard them talking about how Gibby escaped. But as I established earlier, Nora is not the best critical thinker. But what happens next makes even less sense than any of that, or honestly anything that I've seen so far. They play this game that I can really only describe as pin the tail on the Nora, where Carly and friends, who are not blindfolded, have to pin a tail onto Nora, who is blindfolded. I'm pretty sure this is some kind of thrill for Nora, who is probably starved for human touch, but as a game, it makes so little sense. Who is this supposed to be a challenge for? At this point, I'm thinking Carly should just grab hold of Maurice the chicken and hold it hostage until Nora lets them go. But that's not what happens. Freddy's mom and a guy from the smoothie shop burst through the door in a motorcycle, so in a final play for control, Nora hits the remote to start Spencer's torture device again. Carly tries to wrestle the remote from her, but Nora starts barking like a rabid dog. Although, none of this matters because Sam exists. Like I said earlier, I was a fan of Drake and Josh as a kid, and I started watching a little bit of early iCarly, and then ironically I think my attention turned from that to actual online content. So I remember Sam being kind of brutish in season 1. I did not realize that she'd been flanderized into an anime character who can literally kick anyone's ass. Nora and her mother armed themselves with fire pokers. Again, not sure why they didn't just go for the swords on the wall, but Freddy's mom sure does. And with a final head bash against Nora, the Derschlits are defeated once more. And although the iCarly team claim that this time she's going to prison
Forever and ever and ever
and ever.
That would not end up being the case. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, which doesn't seem too harsh considering what she did and the fact that she had 5 victims, but maybe she was able to play the sympathy card again during her trial. Nora would develop a deep-seated desire for revenge over the years, collecting photographs of iCarly and her friends and forming a collage in the prison's gym for motivation as she gets into fighting shape. She also got a tattoo of Maurice on her back. At some point, they updated the sign of the prison, and while it is a huge improvement, it is a lot less specific. One day in 2014, when Nora was 20 or 21 years old, Maurice somehow locates her and scratches at the door. And when the guard goes to check on the noise, Nora pounces on her back, forces a bucket onto her head, and knocks her out. She sings about her plans for revenge against the iCarlys as she escapes the event.
Yay! Yay for days!
News of her escape makes national headlines. Her first target is Gibby, who she locates in a movie theater. He remembers her, but is oblivious to the severity of the situation, so she's able to mine him for information. She learns that Carly is away in Italy, and knows it'll be too difficult to get to her, but she is able to get Sam's address out of him. And by get it out of him, I mean literally she just offers it to her. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Gibby, but he wasn't this dumb when he decoded their video message by reading every 4th word, but he's certainly an idiot now. My theory is that he becomes stupider throughout the series due to concussions. For whatever reason, the pent-up hatred that Nora has towards Carly and her friends doesn't seem to extend to Gibby, and she just leaves him alone. Even though he's the one that tainted her kidnapping plot on her 16th birthday. And from her point of view, he's the one that escaped 2 years later and ruined her plan again. If anything, she should hate Gibby more than anyone. But I guess this just strengthens the celebrity worship diagnosis. Gibby isn't as famous as the main 3, so she doesn't really care. It wouldn't be long before Nora was able to locate her targets. Nora finds Sam and her new roommate Kat at a robot-themed restaurant in LA, where she learns about and kidnaps one of their friends, a kid from their apartment complex named Dice. She first interacts with him by baiting him to help her load a large kayak into her car because no one is helping her. This is the 3rd time now that she's able to lure in and kidnap her victim because someone feels sorry for her being all alone. She places Dice at the bottom of a well in the basement of an abandoned house and snips off a lock of his hair to include with her ransom note, which she drops at Sam and Kat's door, then calls Sam's phone to fill in the details. She seems genuinely happy that Sam remembered her voice, a sign that despite her intentions for revenge, she can't fully detach herself from her initial need for validation from the crew. She keeps trying to get him to put conditioner into his hair because she plans on shaving his head to create a wig, which she believes is going to upset Sam for some reason. But this is interrupted when Sam's roommate, Kat, rings her doorbell. No, I don't know how the doorbell works in an abandoned house that probably should not have power. Kat is even more of an imbecile than Gibby, so she's fooled by Nora's disguise and gives away their plan. Sam is busy checking another house, so Nora invites Kat to come check out the basement.
Not many people have basements in California.
And traps her in the well. They really like doing that body falling from above joke on Nickelodeon, don't they? It's not long before Sam finds her though, and she takes Maurice as a hostage, which is pretty vindicating for me, because if you'll recall, that's exactly what I said they should have done last time. Sam threatens to eat Maurice, a callback to the mid-credits scene from the first Nora episode, and Nora, apparently confident in the muscle she grew in prison, challenges Sam to fight.
But if I win, down the pit you go!
Not into the pit, it burns!
Sam ends it almost immediately and throws her in the well, and Nora is arrested for a 3rd time and extradited to a maximum security prison back in Seattle, but she vows to return and come for them all again.
I'm a character that never dies!
At some point, Nora got out of prison and purchased a marionette of Freddie Benson, which was made by Spencer. Her obsession seems just as fervent around age 27, which is evident when there was a revival of iCarly. The web series, you know, iCarly. Carly's birthday is one of those things that is not consistent, but we know that she was 26 when she brought back the show.
I just wish I could go back in time and tell 13-year-old me to put Justin on the show. Wait a minute. I can tell 26-year-old me to do it.
Which means it was 2020 or 2021 when Carly returned to the internet, mostly garnering positive responses. But there were a few haters, one of which Carly responded to, challenging this person to meet her at a coffee shop that afternoon. And that afternoon, Nora shows up at this coffee shop and spots Carly, Freddie, and Spencer, who accidentally tases himself, allowing Nora to approach.
Hey, Fredward. Love the flavor saver.
That's disgusting. But Nora claims not to be the person behind the iHateCarly 57 account, and admits that she's still a fan, but not in a creepy stalker way. She declares that she's a new person, and that their meeting is just a coincidence. And that night, when Carly is on a dinner date and Nora appears again, this is also a coincidence. But none of her alleged self-improvement seems to have improved her social skills, because she's dining alone and invites herself to Carly's table. And she is telling the truth. She's not the owner of the iHateCarly 57 account. However, the rest of her story was lies, and it's revealed after all the hater business is cleared up. Nora scales the side of her building and pretends not to know that it's Carly's apartment. Not wanting to be fooled 3 times, Carly and Freddie are cautious, and Nora dishes them a story that she genuinely hadn't thought about them in ages, but then she got a taste at the coffee shop.
And 10 years of therapy flew right out the window.
It is possible to get treatment in Washington state prisons if you have mental health issues, which Nora very clearly does. However, we know that she still hated Carly, Sam, and Freddie because she tried to kidnap Sam and her friends in 2014, only 6 or 7 years before. Nora claimed not to be stalking Carly anymore, but when Carly challenged her hater to meet up, this was not over email. It was in the comments. Anyone can see those. Nora must have been reading all of Carly's comments and showed up at Skybucks when Carly revealed where she was going to be that afternoon. Something she probably only felt comfortable doing because she's no longer as popular as she once was and wasn't expecting any stalkers to show up. This wouldn't make it too different from their first encounter, the fateful day where Nora invited Carly to her house because she knew that Carly was going to be at Webicon, which was nearby. It's possible that Nora really has left her violent tendencies in the past, though I seriously doubt that, but clearly her celebrity worship syndrome has not subsided as she claims. Carly and Freddie kick her out, and that is the last we see of Nora Dershlit. Other than this Instagram photo posted by the actress where she kind of looks overly obsessed, causing everyone to compare this pic to her role as Nora. This actress also went on to marry the actor who plays Lubert, and that is all I have to say about that. I'm not gonna tell any specific personal stories of creepy fans because I think mentioning it kind of encourages the behavior, but it's been interesting visiting this series. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and there are moments where it's way off the mark, like averaging 500k concurrent live viewers in 2007, a figure that smashes the biggest names in streaming today. Or the fact that people would be entertained by them literally just making faces into a distort filter. I always find it funny when entertainment within a work of entertainment is not entertaining.
Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, wandering in the night. What were the chances we'd be sharing love?
But there are also moments that are kind of prophetic to show how that landscape of online video creation would play out. iCarly debuted the same year as the YouTube Partner Program, which is the program that allows creators to monetize their work. It was very exclusive back then, containing just over 100 creators. So iCarly kind of grew up alongside this industry. The very first episode captures the appeal of online content before anyone else had really put it into words.
I just hate it when adults like her get to control what kids can do and see.
It refers to what people in the industry now call the democratization of content. Before YouTube, there were gatekeepers at movie studios and television networks that decided what content deserved to be shown. Online, the audience decides what they want to watch. There are so many examples of things that happen in iCarly eventually just becoming things that happen. In episode 3, they hold a dance clip competition and get way too many submissions.
How are we gonna watch 3,000 dance clips before our next show?
They spend the next week drudging through entries. I had this exact thing happen, where I decided when I hit 1 million subscribers, I was gonna collaborate with a channel who was at 100 subscribers. I got so many submissions. It wasn't 3,000, but I similarly got very burnt out watching so many clips. Episode 4 sees Carly bring her new boyfriend onto the show, and things get messy. The lesson being, don't mix content with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Something the YouTube audience would learn over the next decade and a half of breakup videos, channel realignments, and drama shitstorms. The series covers everything from press hit pieces to 24-hour live streams to privacy issues to shady brand deals to lawsuits to fan funding to giveaways. They even predicted influencer boxing in a season 2 episode called I Fight Shelby Marks, where Carly accidentally challenges an MMA girl to a boxing match 8.5 years before KSI first got in the ring with Joe Weller. They may have even pioneered the apology video in season 4's I Pity the Neville, where Neville Papperman is forced to make a live apology on their show, which was still 4 years before the trend really took off in 2015.
You want to see us do stuff you can't see anywhere else?
Carly, no! You're too young. I don't know of any content creators so far who were kidnapped by their fans like what Nora did to the iCarlys. There was one creator named Marina Joyce who people thought was kidnapped in 2016 because they noticed her behaving strangely in videos and thought she was trying to convey a secret message for help. Kind of just like what Carly, Sam, and Freddie did to get Gibby's attention the first time that they were kidnapped. There was a big social media movement called #SaveMarinaJoyce. I actually did a parody video back then where it was me interviewing her, but things take a turn for the worse.
Marina, what's happening? Marina.
Anyway, the real Marina Joyce just ended up being on drugs. Case closed. But with so many episodes of iCarly having come to fruition, the question is not if it will continue, but which episode will bleed into reality next. Which, for content creators like me and many of my contemporaries, makes the tale of Nora Dershlit a haunting possibility. Make sure to subscribe to CZsWorld so you don't miss the next episode of Horror History, where I'll be covering the VidCon. Ring the death bell, and I will see you in the next one, assuming we both survive. And if you're wondering why I covered iCarly on my horror channel, you might want to check the date of this upload.